Hi, this is Robin, and this video is about making your WordPress site really fast without spending a lot of money. So you've got a WordPress website, a blog or a business website, and you put it on some shared hosting like maybe GoDaddy or HostGator. It wasn't very expensive, but you're also finding it's not very fast. Maybe the first time you load the website it takes maybe 10 seconds before it even shows up. So the quick way to fix that, well, just spend a lot of money, put it on an expensive server. But for the rest of us, we can just do some optimizations. Without spending any money, we can load that up really quick. Okay, so the first thing we can do to improve the website response is by getting a better shared host. Not all shared hosts are the same. If you're using GoDaddy or HostGator, I would say look around for something else. What you want is a shared host that has SSD hard drives, because those will load faster, and maybe one that has not Apache server, but look for one that uses light TTFB or Nginx. Web servers are much faster than Apache. You also want to find one that uses MariaDB instead of MySQL. These are just drop-in replacements. Your site will load a lot faster. But the main thing is find one that has an SSD hard drive. I know that GoDaddy and maybe HostGator, I used 101 in the past. They didn't really provide that, but I'm using CrocWeb. They have SSD and all these other things, and they're pretty fast. The other thing is you want to make sure that it has the latest PHP. My new hosts at CrocWeb, they have PHP 7.1 already. You also want to pick a host that's near your location. I'm in Canada. My host is in Canada. If your clients are coming from the US, then you might want to pick a server that's in the US, something closer to them. If you're serving people in Europe, then pick a server in Europe. That would definitely increase the speed. Okay, so the next thing is caching. When you're on a shared hosting environment and somebody hits your website, you're probably going to see a maybe 2-3 second delay before the website even responds. And that's because when you hit the home page of your blog's going to hit the database. It's going to retrieve the information, and then it's going to send it back. In a shared hosting environment, I find that firing up the database, for some reason, the database goes to sleep if nobody's been to your blog in the last hour. So what we want to do is set up caching that will pull all the data out of your database and put it into a flat file, like an HTML file. It'll load much faster. That's the single fastest improvement I can recommend for improving your website. Now I'm going to show you how I set up Super Cache, but there's other really great plugins out there. I've used W3 Total Cache. It's a lot more complicated to set up, and I found that I got the same results with Super Cache, and it was a lot faster, and it was a lot easier. So let's take a quick look at my blog without caching turned on. So I'm going to open up a new incognito window, and I'm going to hit F12 to open up the developer console over here, and make sure you're on the network tab. I'm going to hit my web blog, and you can see it's going to take a few seconds before it responds, and then it loads not bad. This blog isn't very heavy in images, so it took about 2 seconds to load. But look at that initial load time right here. You can see that the TTFB is what you want to look at. It took almost 384 milliseconds to respond once you hit enter on that URL. And overall, it took 1.5 seconds for this web page to load. I've seen this take up to 12 seconds on some blogs if you have a lot of plugins on your home page. When we do some caching on this, you can bring this down to maybe 80 milliseconds, at most 200 milliseconds. It makes it a lot faster. So let's turn on some caching and see how much faster the website gets. Now go into your administration panel and go to Plugins. I've already installed it. You can see right here, WP Super Cache. It was deactivated. For you to get it, just click up here on Add New and go to Search and just type Super Cache. And just click on Install and then activate it. You can also use W3 Total Cache. I can recommend them too, but it is a bit more advanced. I would have to do a separate video on just setting this up because it's quite involved. So once you have it installed, we'll go down here. I'm going to activate it. And I'm going to show you the settings that I use. So we'll go to Settings. When the first time you turn this on, it'll say WP Cache, modify the WP config file. That's fine. If I reload this, it'll go away. You're going to turn it on here to caching on. We'll go to Advanced. Oh, after you turn this on, don't forget to hit Update. And then here, on my particular shared host, mod rewrite doesn't work because they're using light TTPD. Stick to PHP. It's a bit more compatible with most web shared hosting, so stick to that. In miscellaneous, compress the page so they're served more quickly. That's recommended. Don't cache pages for known users. That's recommended. Now for this one, cache rebuild, I had to turn this off. There's a bug today in March 2017. There's a bug in Supercache where if you check this, the home page doesn't get cached, or every time you hit it, it would rebuild the cache. So for now, I have to leave this off. Turn this on, 304 not modified, browser caching. And the only other one that really matters is, well, you can turn this off, course file locking, turn that off. And that should be good. I'm going to hit Update. And then further down here, the expiry. Now, if your blog doesn't update that often, then you can set this cache timeout to really long. This is in seconds, so this works out to, I think, 2 months. It'll still update every time you write a post. It'll clear the cache, but if you're not modifying it often, I tend to put it to a really long time. And okay, so that's good. That's it. If I click on the content tabs here, you can see how many pages have been cached already. I've got 14 pages cached, so that means it's working. And let's go take a look. So I'm going to create a new incognito window. Press F12. I'm going to go to the blog. Now the first time we hit this, if you didn't already preload the page, it's going to build it. But let's take a look. So yes, you can see here, the first time I went to this page, it's still quite slow, 1.49 seconds. But if I reload this page, now this page is in the cache. The second time I load this page, much faster, 91 milliseconds. So now instead of accessing the database, it's loading it right off the PHP files, and it's super fast. And the total time here is 156 milliseconds. That's pretty much the best you can hope for on a shared hosting environment. Take a look at your blog, and you'll find that probably this is a lot slower. Put on some caching, and it'll be much faster. Now, one of the ways to make sure that this is coming from a cache is when you go here to the Elements tab, and we scroll down to the bottom, you can see a little comment here. It's telling you that this took 1.3 seconds to load. So the previous time we loaded it, it took 1.3 seconds to load, and we saw that delay. But now we can see there's a timestamp on here. So if I go to this web page later today, it should still be the same timestamp. So it's not rebuilding it every time I hit the web page. It's just going to rebuild it once. In my case, it's going to hold on to that for maybe 2 months or until the next time I write a new blog post. And it's going to be nice and fast. No database access required. Your website can now handle more visitors. And it's a good optimization technique. So the next thing that you want to look at is your theme that you're using. My theme is based on the Genesis framework, which is known to be pretty fast and efficient. But if you've just picked some generic theme off the internet somewhere, it might be really bloated and slowing down your website. I can also recommend Thesis and Builder, but I personally use Genesis as a theme framework and then build my themes on top of that. And it's pretty good and fast. So the next thing is images. If you're using a lot of big product shots or large photos on your website, you've got to optimize those images. Now a plugin I recommend for that is, it's called EWWW Image Optimizer. Let's load that up and take a quick look at that. Here's my plugins again for another blog of mine. I'm using this plugin here, EWW Image Optimizer. Now what this will do is it'll compress your JPEG images and get them as small as possible. This is a pretty good plugin, and you can adjust these settings here, lossless compression, both for your JPEGs and your GIFs. And let's see if I do anything advanced here. You can pick your optimization levels, PNG. It's using a bit more advanced algorithms than you would get out of maybe Photoshop. Your JPEGs will get a little bit smaller. It can even go through all the images already uploaded into WordPress and optimize them after the fact. The other thing you want to look for is make sure you're using the right sized images. If your web page is using a banner image and you've uploaded a JPEG that's 2000 pixels by 2000 and it's just not necessary, you want to make that just the right amount of pixels that you need. I'm using this plugin called Simple Image Sizes, and here you can set custom image sizes. So you can create, maybe your portfolio needs a specific resolution or you need a new thumbnail size that's not standard with WordPress. This is a great plugin to get the exact sizing that you need. So the next thing you want to do is optimize your CSS and JavaScript. Now if we take a quick look at the blog, my blog here, it's not too complicated. It's got a couple styles here. This came with the theme, Minimum Pro. It's a Genesis theme. It's got another style here for social icons. So you see it's got a couple different CSS files. This one's for simple social icons. It's got a couple jQueries, different scripts. These really add up quick. If you've got a lot of fancy scripts in your web page, this could slow down the site load. What you want to do is install something that will combine the CSS files together into one single CSS, and maybe combine the JavaScript as well into a single JavaScript. So you don't have multiple requests hitting your website. It's just one big file. That will definitely speed up the site. W3 Total Cache will do that for you out of the box. There's a little checkbox and it'll do it. Super Cache will not do that. So you could use another plugin like Auto Optimizer that will do that for you. Combining CSS can be problematic. If it does it in the wrong order, then it could screw up the look of your site. But I would give Auto Optimizer a try. There's lots of combiners out there. I'm sure you can find one. Same with JavaScript combining. And remove those scripts that are unnecessary. If you're using a really heavy theme that's adding a lot of JavaScript, maybe carousel widgets or widgets on your home page, just take those out if they're not necessary. They're just going to slow down the website. In the end of the day, it's a bit better to have your website load fast than it is to have all these fancy little widgets loading on the home screen. Remember, making the site load fast will help your Google rankings, so you'll get more people to your website, which is fundamentally more important. The same can be said for optimizing plugins used in WordPress. If you have too many, all it takes is one slow plugin to slow down your whole site. So if we take a look at my plugins here on my other blog, I've got a few, but they're all necessary. They all have their own purpose, but these are all highly regarded plugins. I've got a database optimizer. That's helpful. I don't really feel any difference. I don't have that much data on my website, so I don't think my database is getting bloated. But you could try running that to optimize the database. Again, it doesn't really matter because we're going to be loading our web page off of a cached flat HTML file, or a PHP file, so it's going to load a lot faster regardless of the database. You might have a SEO plugin here or there. I've got my site on a secure HTTPS, so I need this plugin for that, a nice redirection, simple image sizes. The other thing is I've got my Google scripts, maybe Google Maps or my Google Fonts. Those are loading off of Google servers using this Google Libraries plugin. And that's because Google is going to serve that font really fast off their site, a lot faster than it will coming off of my shared hosting environment. And the image optimizer, some analytics, and for security, I limit the login attempts. But if you have a lot of plugins in here, I would look in removing the ones that are unnecessary. Now it's up to you, but I've disabled comments on my website. It's usually mostly filled with spam these days. And I mean, for a while I tried offloading my comments to Disqus or Livefire, but that's another JavaScript plugin that's got to be installed. And I found at the end of the day, it wasn't worth it. It was better just to turn that off. I think that's here under settings and discussion. And then I just disable this somewhere here. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Allow people to post comments on new articles. I turned that off. I just found it wasn't worth it to try to manage all those comments. They were mostly junk. So I would uncheck these three. This would disable trackbacks as well, which is not really used anymore. Pingbacks and trackbacks. They just slow down your website, so there's no point having them. I would just turn them off. The next thing is to enable Gzip compression. You can also check that, so let's take a quick look. If we go to the blog, press F12 to inspect it. I'll just reload that page. So if we look at the first request and I click on this, and we look here, you can see my server has Gzip enabled. If you don't see that, you will have to look into enabling that. There's a couple different ways you can do that. There is a thing you can put into the htaccess file. The htaccess file is a file, it's a hidden file in your root of your web server. And if you can find it online, the right code to put into there. Maybe I'll put in my links in the comments below. It'll enable htaccess, enable Gzip. Or you can use a plugin like W3 Total Cache. I think Super Cache as well enables Gzip. But you can either do it within the PHP or you can do it right in the htaccess file that's done by your hosting server. So make sure Gzip is enabled. Your site basically gets zipped and it loads a lot quicker. So the last thing I want to talk about is the CDN, Content Delivery Networks. That can help speed up your website. I've enabled it for this blog. So what it basically means is my images and my CSS and my JavaScript is not actually coming from this shared hosting server. It's coming from a separate server, my CDN, which I pay money for. And they have multiple servers throughout the country, throughout the US. So if somebody were in California to load this page, the images that are the heaviest part of the page are going to come from a server closer to California. And if another person is coming to my website from New York, then the CDN would serve up the images from a server closer to them. And if you look in here from the developer in the network, you can see that my images, when I hover over here, you see how it says cdn4.raggedsales.com? That's coming from a subdomain that I've pointed to the CDN. Now, it's not terribly expensive. If you have a lot of images, it might be worth investing in. I use KeyCDN. They're probably the cheapest good CDN you can get. I was using MaxCDN before. I originally joined MaxCDN with a trial, a coupon. It was $49 for 1 year, and that gave me a terabyte of bandwidth for my CDN. But after that year was up, my price went up to $79, I think, US. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I found KeyCDN, and I think it's much cheaper. I don't remember the price now. I'll put it on the screen. So this is a quick look at my cPanel and how I set up my subdomain that you're going to need for the CDN. scroll down in cPanel down to Domains and go to Simple Zone Editor. So I'll click on that there, and you can see I've created some zones, or sorry, some subdomains, and the one that I'm using for my CDN is here at the bottom, currently being blocked. Let me hide there. Okay, the bottom here, cdn4.raggedsales.com. So what you would do is, in this box here, you would put in the name, cdn4.whateverdomain.com, and then the CNAME record. This is provided to me by KeyCDN. So you would put your own information here. Back in the zone section, they would provide that for you here. You just copy it from here into here, add the CNAME record, and it should activate. I don't know if it's instant or if it takes a few minutes. But I'll just show you quickly what you would do in KeyCDN's administration panel. You go to zones, you're going to create a new zone. Create here a zone called CDN-4C4E. And you point the origin to your own domain. And this is a pull. Now the reason why it doesn't say cdn4.raggedsales.com is I've created a zone alias, so that's in here. And this zone alias will redirect. So you first create the zone, and then you create a zone alias to a nice pretty URL that you want. So that's it. Those are the main areas I would look at in optimizing a cheap shared hosting provider. We went through picking a good web host, a good shared web host that's not GoDaddy and not HostGator. Make sure you're using a good optimized theme. Set up caching. I use Supercache. Optimize your images, optimize your JavaScripts, remove unnecessary JavaScripts that are slowing down your web page. Combine them using an auto optimizer, or maybe W3 Total Cache will combine them. Remove comments, remove trackbacks and pings, enable Gzip compression, and if you want to, try using a CDN. You can also use Cloudflare. I think I forgot to mention that. Cloudflare is a free CDN. It's not too hard to set up. You just have to point your domain in your domain name provider to point to Cloudflare servers. It's free. Give it a try. And just as a test, as a comparison to running your own shared host, you could try creating a droplet on DigitalOcean. This is a VPS running your own dedicated machine. Now I tried this to see how much faster my blog would run off of having my own virtual machine, my own CPU dedicated to loading my own blog. So just for fun, I went to DigitalOcean and I checked out their plans. I went with the $5 a month plan. It only gives you 512 megabytes of memory, a single processor, not very much hard disk space, but it is SSD, and 1 terabyte transfer limit. And they bill you monthly, $5. So I gave that a shot. It took only maybe 5 minutes to get this going. And they gave me a domain. Let me just load up my network thing. So I put my blog on it. And let's see how fast it loaded. That's pretty fast. 43 milliseconds time to first byte to load this web page. That's pretty fast. I don't even have any caching installed on this droplet. So I know they're using Nginx server, which is even faster than light TTP that my shared host provides. So this would be another option. They have a one-click install to get WordPress going on there. You can still do all your optimizations, and it'll make this site load even faster. If you're interested in seeing a video on how to set up DigitalOcean and get your blog going, I could create a video on that too. So thanks for watching. Click the like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos. Leave a comment if you have any questions.